Hello, everyone, and welcome to Centers and Margins. This is a podcast where I reflect on global health, systems change, and leadership, told from my unique point of view as someone who transitioned from the private space into the global health and development space. I will be reflecting on areas of interest where I had a front row seat at the center and others where I also stood at the margins or the sidelines. A little bit about me. I spent about 14 years in the private health sector and specifically in health financing. 8 of those were spent as a C-suite executive before I then made the move into global health to focus on systems level change. In the time that I have been in the development sector, I have served as an executive director for a Gates-funded initiative. I have also led a multi-stakeholder group focused on continent-wide health financing reforms at the African Union, and I currently support global discussions on data-driven decision-making as the chair of the Rapid Cycle Monitoring Subgroup at World Bank's Global Financing Facilities Results Advisory Group. I work side by side with leaders of governments and global institutions to translate complex technical data into actionable policies and also to support transformative and sustainable reforms in the health systems. Today, I serve as Senior Strategic Advisor to the Honorable Minister of Health in Sierra Leone, supporting him and his leadership team at the intersection of policy, innovation, and health financing, supporting their journey and trajectory towards universal health coverage. When I made the move from private sector into the public sector development space, some of the things that I grappled with were how a few of the things that I took for granted in the private space were not readily available in the public sector space. For instance, the availability of real-time and credible data for decision making. I was also struck by the tempo of decision making. While in the private sector, there was a lot of focus on speedy decision making. In the public sector, it was different. The focus was more on being deliberate, consensus driven, and also being aligned with political realities. And so I had to learn how to navigate complex political economies, how to build coalitions, and how to navigate and even exploit political windows of opportunity. And while I pause very quickly to say that these nuances also exist in the private sector, I find that in the public sector and development sector, they take on a more visible and pointed very important role in decision making. I also found myself as someone who moved from the private sector into the public sector and development space, having to navigate the skepticism and, dare I say, suspicion with which outsiders are usually regarded, while also trying to adapt my private sector instincts of decisiveness, speed, and a bias for execution to the pace and the priorities of development sector and public sector work. In all of this, I have come to find out that the skill sets from one world can very well enrich the other. And with this podcast, I would love to share my opinions on possibilities and opportunities to transfer the skills from one space to the other. And so with this podcast, I really want to reflect on my nearly 2 decades of experience in health system strengthening across sectors as a means of beginning this documentation of a living journal of lessons learned in this journey. And the idea is not to be prescriptive, it's really to surface new perspectives, spark discussions, and continually make sense of this global health space that I find myself in. The first couple of episodes that I will be working on would really be devoted to debt swaps. And that's because I have received a lot of questions from different people about our debt swap journey in Sierra Leone. Why did you decide on this instrument? How did you determine the countries that you were going to reach out to? How did you determine what loans qualified? Was there a particular cutoff or threshold of the monies that are owed? And how did you determine whether it was going to be bilateral, multilateral, or commercial loans? I would be sharing my reflections, lessons learned from our journey, also as a way of potentially supporting other countries that are looking at interesting new ways or maybe non-traditional ways of expanding their fiscal space for health. And hopefully this is something that they can look into. And so I invite you all to join me here as we think aloud about the work that we do, as we begin to unpack some of the things that I have learned, and maybe also hear from you about what you're working on in your own space. I look forward to seeing you on the very first episode coming real soon. So have a great day and see you soon. Bye.